let's talk about starting the business. If I were to start a clothing brand today, do I start online or offline?
यार मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है ना आप सारे ट्रिक्स निकलवा लोगे, ठीक है?
इसलिए तो बुलाया है.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Now don't try to have a mask because आज के दिन पे हर आदमी को पता है कि ये जो सामने इन्फ्लुएंसर मुझे बता रहा है कि ये बहुत अच्छी ड्रेस है या ये बहुत अच्छा फेस पैक है, वो उसे भी पता है और हमें भी पता है. I mean, I have not only sold garments, I've sold lighters, I've sold sunglasses, I've sold every damn thing that could have been sold online to make money.
Okay.
And we did not even have money that we could have withdrawn to buy groceries. I remember I had to call my uncle. हाँ. My मामा जी, इस तरीके से बिजनेस बनाओगे तो लाइबिलिटी फ्री बिजनेस बनेगा और चला तो चला, नहीं चला तो घर के पैसे आपके बैंक में रहेंगे. And I used to sort the categories. For example, if I talk about t-shirts,
Yeah.
तो मैं t-shirts पे जाके टॉप सेलर्स पे पॉपुलैरिटी पे क्लिक करता था तो जो टॉप सेलर्स होते थे वो ऊपर आ जाते.
अच्छा.
एक नॉर्मल ट्राउजर और एक कार्गो बनाने में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 100 रुपये का फ़र्क है.
ओके.
लेकिन प्राइस पॉइंट में आप देखोगे कि 500 रुपये का फ़र्क आ रहा है एवरेज सेलिंग प्राइस में. सो दिस इज हाउ यू आइडेंटिफाई अ गैप. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड अ वर्किंग कैपिटल इंटेंसिव बिजनेस, राइट? इसमें पैसा लगता है, नहीं बिकेगा, डेड स्टॉक हो जाएगा. तो अल्टीमेटली आप देखोगे तो आप कमाओगे वही, आपकी सारी कमाई आपके डेड स्टॉक में चली जाएगी.
Okay. In this podcast, we're going to discuss about smart ways to start your fashion clothing brand. Today, we have an industry expert who's also founder of clothing brand Hubberholme. Welcome, Prasoon Sureka, to the couch.
Hi.
How are you feeling?
Perfect.
Lovely to have you. Let's start from your journey.
Yeah.
How you started Hubberholme, and you can actually take us through your childhood, your education, and what really inspired you to start a clothing brand.
So I've been born and brought up in Kanpur, and I had my schooling there, and then I came to Delhi for my college. And while I was doing my college, I used to also make T-shirts as a side profession for a quick buck for my fellow students. And I mean, there were a lot of societies in Delhi University. So for those societies, all the societies needed, like printed T-shirts with their
Right.
society name and stuff. So I used to do that. So there, you used to just, maybe you invest 5,000, you used to get profit as 5,000. So it was like you invest 100 rupee in a T-shirt, you sell it for 200. So I did that. So that was something that stayed with me. I mean, I figured out where to buy the T-shirts from and where to get it printed and then sell it.
Interesting. I had to interrupt because at a college level, you started your business journey. What led you to, make your own T-shirts? And which college was this?
So I'm from Delhi University. I was from Delhi University. I did my physics honors from Hansraj College, Delhi University.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was nothing like, I was really, something really inspired me to do this. Just that, I don't know, maybe because I'm from a business family. So it was always out somewhere in my veins, to maybe set up my own thing. And while I was in college, my family was also going through some kind of a financial stress. So it was always there, used to be at the back of my head to, not really go back and ask my parents for money and maybe figure out some internship, something to maybe make some money. So maybe that's how it was just a hobby. And I didn't know that it's going to culminate into a full-fledged business thereafter. But that wasn't sort of a business that I was really doing, but it was just like, something that you just do in college, like one of the things that you do in college. So post my college, I started preparing for CAT. I wanted to do an MBA, but my father was diagnosed with cancer and I had to leave that in the middle. And I had to run back to my hometown to look after his business because he had to go to Bombay for treatment. So I went back to Kanpur and I had like 2 years that I spent in Kanpur, in the middle of which we also lost, I also lost my father. And so during those 2 years when I was looking after his business, I mean, I think those were the 2 years that actually groomed me to be an Indian businessman. Like I was working in Kanpur, which is a, like sort of a, supposed to be called as Manchester of India at one point in time. But being in Uttar Pradesh,
Yes.
it is one of those towns which is not very easy to work in, to be honest. So after spending 2 years, I think I was pretty equipped with all the hacks and
Yeah.
all the methods of actually running a business full time. So suppose that, so 2 years, because in a span of 2 years, I happened to give away pay off all the liabilities that my father's business had. And I was not liking, my lifestyle in Kanpur. I was not, like my health was deteriorating and things were not going very well. So I decided to come back to Delhi. When I came back to Delhi, I started staying with my brother, who used to run an event agency here in Delhi. So I called him up and I asked him if he can, sort of let me in his space and let me figure out what I want to do in
Yeah.
life. So with, I think, a handful of 11,000 rupees that I saved from that business that I was doing, I came here to
Okay.
Delhi and I started staying with my brother. So my brother had his office in his flat only. We used to stay in Lajpat Nagar. Like it was a small 2 BHK, a room-in-room kind of a situation, which was, sort of like the way you have it on a train. So that was a place where I began my journey, like my business journey. So again, when I reached there, and there was this day when I just sat down to think that, okay, what can I really do?
Yeah.
I mean, the only agenda that I had in my mind was to make money and make my ends meet. There was nothing like I was following any passion, or there was nothing like, I was planning to maybe follow one of my dreams or anything like that. It's just that
Right.
the situation was such that I had to do something to make
Ends meet.
to make my ends meet. Yeah. So
उसके बाद आपका जर्नी कैसा था जब आप दिल्ली वापस आ गए और आपने अपने ब्रदर को ज्वाइन किया? Did you start Hubberholme then, or you have a different journey?
no, so from there, like I said, when I was, जब मैं इस बारे में सोच रहा था कि यार मैं क्या करूं, तो फिर मुझे वही अपने कॉलेज के दिन याद आया कि यार वो एक चीज़ थी जो मुझे करनी आती थी, जिससे मैं पैसा कमा सकता था.
Right.
So I immediately started the same thing. So I think in not even a span of a week when I was back, मैंने चालू कर दिया.
Okay.
I started my t-shirt business. So I was selling t-shirts in Delhi University. So I used to make posters, put my phone number, and the posters were really eye-catching, and I was selling Delhi University t-shirts. So it was something like University of Delhi written with the logo, and I
Right.
sold those t-shirts. So I did that for about 6-7 months, and then there was a small feud that happened with the Delhi University Student Union, where
Okay.
they were saying that you cannot do this, you have to give us some royalty and all that stuff. तो फिर मुझे समझ में आ गया कि यार ये काम लॉन्ग टर्म नहीं कर सकता मैं.
Okay.
तो फिर मैंने सोचा यार अब कुछ और करना पड़ेगा, तो लेकिन करना गारमेंट्स में ही था. तो उस टाइम पे फ्लिपकार्ट स्नैपडील का लॉन्च हो रहा था इंडिया में, एंड दे हैड जस्ट कम. तो मतलब कोई इंटरेस्टेड नहीं होता था उस पर सेल करने की, लोग ऑफलाइन पे ज़्यादा बिलीव
Okay.
करते थे. तो आई फाउंड दैट एज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी, और मैंने फ्लिपकार्ट स्नैपडील पे सामान बेचना चालू किया. So I used to pick up stuff from Karol Bagh, Gandhinagar, and different places in Delhi, and I used to sell it as combos on these platforms.
Okay.
So that is when my journey, my business journey actually started full-fledgedly. So that was going on, and so while these platforms were also evolving,
Yeah.
so my business was also evolving. अभी तो उठा के बेच रहे थे, फिर धीरे धीरे हमने उसको जैसे जैसे challenges आने लग गए, they were also making their system, so they started implementing a lot of checks and processes in their system, like
Quality checks.
quality checks, yes.
Okay.
Because of customer experience and stuff. So I also started, simultaneously implementing those systems within my organization to streamline with their policies. So there was a day when I realized that, if I have to really go ahead, the only way to do that is to actually make my own brand. Because at that time, Jabong के private labels, Cobalt, और ऐसे करके बहुत सारे private labels launch हो रहे थे. And that was the time, when somebody could have actually made a label and create a brand. So I realized that, that is the right time. So it was around 2016, I remember. which is when I formally registered Hubberholme
Okay.
as the name of the brand, and I started manufacturing garments under the same brand. I started selling online.
Okay.
So वहीं से Hubberholme की शुरुआत हुई, and it went on, and I think by 2018, I think it took me 2 years to completely convert everything that I was selling to Hubberholme and only sell branded garments and not sell those things that I used to pick up from different locations. I mean, I have not only sold garments, I've sold lighters, I've sold sunglasses, I've sold every damn thing that could have been sold online to make money.
Wow, okay.
So I've done all of that.
That's vast, right?
And that was I mean, when I look back, I remember, you know, I and my brother used to have conversation whenever I was going to launch something new, and I used to tell him that, dude, I'm going to become a billionaire just by selling this. And that never happened. So when we look back, when we sit down someday and, you know, and whenever I'm sharing some new ideas with him, he always makes me remind of those days when I used to, you know, tell him about this. So that's pretty much how Hubberholme, that's what my journey was with Hubberholme.
I remember you shared a picture with us with your old self, and you were sitting somewhere with a tissue paper and 100 crores written. So yeah, taking you back through those memory lanes.
So that's a very, you know, that's one thing that has always stuck with me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's commendable to say, because you were just in your 20s. And today, this podcast is all about all these young people of India who are quite enthusiastic about running their businesses. They are equipped in today's time. They have all the tools. And with a person like you who's already, you know, started his journey in his youth period, it's very relatable.
yeah.
And we're glad that you're going to share some tricks and hacks with us, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe in my own realm and in my own
Yeah.
scheme of things, I will share as much as I can.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about starting the business. If I were to start a clothing brand today, do I start online or offline? What is the right way or the smart way to go about it?
So to be honest, you know, I think in today's time, you know, I feel that apparel as a category has super saturated, right?
Okay.
But I still feel there's a lot of gap. There's a lot of stuff that can be done. And there is there's still a lot of potential, because, you know, we have to understand that clothes are not something which is new. I mean, clothes have been there from the time of Adam and Eve, right? तो ये कोई नई बात नहीं है, कोई नई कैटेगरी नहीं है. तो आज भी अगर सही तरीके से दिमाग लगाया जाए तो काफ़ी बड़ा बिजनेस क्रिएट किया जा सकता है. ये मेरा सोचना है. तो रही बात कि ऑनलाइन करना चाहिए या ऑफलाइन करना चाहिए, तो मैं ये समझता हूँ कि ऑफलाइन और ऑनलाइन का मिक्स होना चाहिए. बट हाँ, स्मार्टेस्ट वे तो यही होगा कि पहले हम ऑनलाइन एक ब्रांड बनाएं, और फिर हम जब वो थोड़ा कैश फ्लो आने लग जाए और थोड़ा बिजनेस जनरेट होने लग जाए, फिर हम ऑफलाइन जाने की भी सोचें. बिकॉज आज के टाइम पे जिस तरीके का स्केल ज़ोडियो का दिख रहा है, जिस तरीके से वो स्केल कर रहा है,
राइट,
I think it shows the amount of potential offline also has in garments which are value for money, and also in terms of you know, people experiencing your brand and then maybe buying it online. So offline is more about experience. Offline is more about कि यार अगर 500-600 रुपए में मिल रहा है तो क्वालिटी क्या मिल रही है. Because online comes with its own set of challenges where you know, it's slightly lower margin because of a lot of returns and stuff. But yeah, there are hacks to that also, which we will obviously discuss later. But this would be the right way to actually go about starting in a smart way.
Okay. So आजकल फैशन कॉलेजेस की फीस roughly 30 to 40 lakhs होते हैं, and it's pretty unaffordable for a lot of people. Do I really need to spend that much hefty amount on a degree or diploma to pursue a fashion business today? And any tricks that you can tell us which can help an entrepreneur build a fashion brand without having to go through this process?
Yeah, to be very honest, मेरा अपना सोचना ये है कि फैशन बिजनेस एक ऐसा है कि मतलब उसके लिए आपको कुछ भी पढ़ाई करने की जरूरत नहीं है. टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट having a fashion degree or doing a diploma is not going to help. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
It will definitely add on. But I'm saying कि फैशन बिजनेस एक ऐसा बिजनेस है जो बिना उसके भी बहुत सही तरीके से किया जा सकता है. बिकॉज मतलब अगर आप एक्सट्रीम लेवल ऑफ थिंग्स में नहीं जा रहे हैं, मतलब एक्सट्रीम लेवल ऑफ टेक्सटाइल्स में नहीं जा रहे हैं, एक्सट्रीम लेवल ऑफ डिटेलिंग में नहीं जा रहे हैं, but you're trying to maybe create another fashion brand, I don't think you really need any kind of a formal education or formal diploma to excel. Even if you don't have, and you just have an acumen to find out what your customers want or what your target audience want, I think you can just immediately start away, not even thinking anything. In fact, in one of the videos I heard somebody, I mean the Snitch co-founder say कि वो तो ये कहता है कि मतलब अगर आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते हैं जीवन में तो आप फैशन बिजनेस बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं.
Yeah. So what kind of investments are we looking at to start a business, a fashion business, online and offline? And can you help me bifurcate the investment for each?
So आई थिंक देखो, ऑनलाइन चालू करने के लिए टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट फैशन एक ऐसा बिजनेस है आप 2 मशीन लगा के भी चालू कर सकते हो.
अच्छा.
इट इज़ ऐसे 2 कारीगर बैठाओ एक कमरे में, 10 बाय 10 के कमरे में, और आप एक फैशन ब्रांड के को फाउंडर हो जाओगे या फाउंडर हो जाओगे आज के दिन पे. इट इज़ दैट सिंपल.
ओके.
बट ऑनलाइन में इन्वेस्टमेंट की अगर मैं बात करूँ तो आई थिंक आपको कपड़ा सोर्स करना पड़ेगा, आपको एक 30-40-50 प्रोडक्ट बनाने पड़ेंगे. बिकॉज आई थिंक टुडे इफ यू हैव टू लॉन्च योर सेल्फ ऑन Amazon एंड फ्लिपकार्ट, आई थिंक यू कैन डू इट विद 2 प्रोडक्ट्स ऑल्सो.
ओके.
1 प्रोडक्ट ऑल्सो. देयर इज नो लिमिटेशन कि आपके पास 100 पीस का कैटलॉग होना चाहिए या 500 पीस का कैटलॉग होना चाहिए. वो सारे रिस्ट्रिक्शंस आई थिंक फैशन पोर्टल्स पे होंगे लाइक मिंत्रा, आजियो, बट
Okay.
in other marketplaces you don't need that. So maybe you can just start with 5 designs also.
Okay.
So in terms of क्या मिनिमम इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए होगी, तो आप ये बिजनेस मेरे हिसाब से आपको 2 मशीन लगाने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है. आप एक कोई मैन्युफैक्चरर पकड़ो और आपको जो भी लगता है आप बेचना चाहते हो, टी-शर्ट्स करना चाहते हो, शर्ट्स करना चाहते हो, वो बनवाओ. कपड़ा नेहरू प्लेस से या कहीं से भी जाके आप लो, और बहुत सारे सूरत बहुत सारी जगह कहीं से भी कपड़ा उठाओ, बनवाओ, एंड यू कैन जस्ट स्टार्ट selling. So maybe you can start with as low as 10,000-20,000 rupees also.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, now if I come down to starting it offline, so I mean, like I said, it is not something that you should think of unless and until you are at least at a ARR of say 30, 40, 50 crores. तो जब तक आपका उस लेवल का बिजनेस ना बने तब तक आपको ऑफलाइन के बारे में नहीं सोचना चाहिए. और ऑफलाइन की इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करूँ तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं उसमें. मतलब यू हैव टू हैव इन्वेंट्री, यू हैव टू हैव लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. और एक दो चीज़ जो मैं आपको और बताना चाहता हूँ उस सवाल पे, जब आपने मेरे से पूछा था कि स्मार्ट तरीका क्या होगा ऑनलाइन या ऑफलाइन चालू करने का, तो उसमें अभी एक चीज़ मेरे दिमाग में आई है. तो एक चीज़ वो ये है कि आपको you have to make sure that you know the kind of, so there are actually 2 ways to actually do this business. One is you invest your own money, create a catalog, and then sell your products. So whatever sells, good enough. Whatever not sells, remain as a dead inventory for you. So this is called a working capital intensive business, right? इसमें पैसा लगता है, नहीं बिकेगा, डेड स्टॉक हो जाएगा. तो अल्टीमेटली आप देखोगे तो आप कमाओगे वही, आपकी सारी कमाई आपके डेड स्टॉक में चली जाएगी.
Okay.
तो उसमें ज़्यादा पैसा बचता नहीं है. अ स्मार्टर वे टू डू दिस इज टू एक्चुअली मेक अ नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस. इस तरीके में क्या होता है कि आपको क्या करना है, अगर आप ऑनलाइन बेचते हो चीज़ें, तो इफ़ यू कैन मैनेज इट इन सम वे वेयर यू गेट एन ऑर्डर एंड यू आर एबल टू टर्न अराउंड दैट पर्टिकुलर ऑर्डर फ्रॉम द स्टेट ऑफ अ फैब्रिक टू अ फिनिश गारमेंट इन लेस देन 5 to 10 hours, then you can actually create a negative working capital business. The other way to do this is to actually not manufacture but source products directly, which is also called white labeling. कि भाई कोई ऐसा मैन्युफैक्चरर ढूंढो आप जिसके पास ऑलरेडी बना हुआ सामान रहता है. टी शर्ट्स प्लेन बनी हुई रहती हैं, उस पर आपने अपना लोगो प्रिंट कराया, जो आपको बेचना था वो प्रिंट कराया, और जब ऑर्डर आया उसके बाद आपने उससे खरीदा और आपने बेचा. सो दिस इज बी लाइक अ नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस. सो आई थिंक वन गुड वे टुडे to do this is to actually, if you can create this model, then I think I don't remember anybody who's been able to crack this model, but it is definitely, something that if you will do, you will be able to scale it big.
So when you meant nobody is able to crack in fashion industry specifically.
Yeah, it is a tough game. I mean, to turn around, see, आप कब तक उठा के बेचोगे? मतलब eventually you'll have to create your own manufacturing unit, right?
Right.
For the brand, or maybe you'll have to have prodigal units where you are getting it manufactured. You'll have to have suppliers, but who will be able to turn around, say, one piece in each garment? Like for example, your daily sales is not going to be like, okay, एक आर्टिकल का एक सेट बिक गया, वो तो एक आर्टिकल का एक साइज का एक पीस बिकेगा, किसी दूसरे आर्टिकल का कुछ साइज का कुछ पीस बिकेगा.
Okay.
तो ये इस चीज को क्रैक करना is actually the smartest way, I would say, to make a mark in the fashion industry today.
Okay. I'm going to talk about margins and break even. Is fashion industry a high margin or a low margin category? And what is the realistic break even time?
So, see, fashion, like I said, it has become an oversaturated category. So, an industry, but honestly, margins actually depend, right? So you have to understand, you have to decide what are you trying to do? Are you trying to create a brand, or are you trying to create a commodity?
Okay.
So if I talk about, if you're trying to create a commodity, which is like you are trying to become a seller and not a brand,
okay,
then I think you can expect margins to be like net margins to be close to about 30%, 25 to 30%. And if you're creating a brand, then you need to have at least a margin of 60 to 70% to be able to create a brand, because it takes a lot of investment. उसमें marketing में पैसा लगता है,
okay,
brand बनाने में पैसा लगता है, shoots और बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती है जो non tangible चीज़ें होती हैं, दिखती नहीं है, उसमें बहुत पैसा लगता है. तो उसके लिए एटलीस्ट इतना मार्जिन तो होना चाहिए. पर हाँ, कमोडिटी बिजनेस में 30-40% मार्जिन में काम हो जाता है. और रही बात कितना टाइम लगता है ब्रेक इवन में, तो जैसे मैंने आपको हैक बताया कि अगर आप नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस बना लेते हो,
हाँ,
तो मेरे को लगता है कि मतलब उससे बेटर मॉडल नहीं हो सकता. और उसमें ब्रेक इवन आप बहुत जल्दी, मतलब एज लेस एज से 2 to 3 months यूल बी ब्रेकिंग इवन. बिकॉज आप सोचो कि आपके पास ऑर्डर आता है, उसके बाद आप प्रोक्योर करते हो, तो आपका पैसा तो लगा ही नहीं. सो इफ यू नॉट गिविंग योर सेल्फ एनी सैलरी, एंड इफ यू नॉट काउंटिंग दैट, देन यू आर ब्रेकिंग इवन राइट फ्रॉम द फर्स्ट डे. Right? So I think this is a very good point, and I think you should definitely highlight this.
Sure.
Whoever wants to start today, look for starting it up
at a negative working
by
capital.
Making sure that your business is a negative working capital business.
Sure.
इसके बारे में हम आगे एक बार चर्चा और करेंगे, जिसमें मैं आपको प्रोसेस भी समझाऊंगा कि इसको किया कैसे जा सकता.
अभी करते हैं ना, क्यों नहीं?
अच्छा, ठीक है. तो देखिए, नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस को अगर आपको करना है, तो आई थिंक जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि कोई भी कैटेगरी आप पकड़ो, लेकिन आप कैटेगरी ऐसी पकड़ो जिसमें आप ऐसा सप्लायर ढूंढ सकते हो जिसके पास प्रोडक्ट्स, मतलब बेसिक प्रोडक्ट्स रेडी हों. तो इसमें आप जैसे प्रिंटेड गारमेंट्स का ब्रांड बना सकते हो, कि जिसमें बेसिक गारमेंट का स्ट्रक्चरिंग नहीं करनी पड़ रही है, बट उसके ऊपर प्रिंट लगा के बेचना है आपको. फॉर एग्जाम्पल प्रिंटेड टी शर्ट्स.
ओके.
और फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोर का आप काम कर सकते हो. कोर गारमेंट्स आर लाइक से कॉम्बो ऑफ टी शर्ट्स, कॉम्बो ऑफ ट्रैक पैंट्स, कॉम्बो ऑफ एनीथिंग, राइट?
ओके.
तो इस तरीके के बिजनेस में अगर आपने कोई ऐसा सप्लायर ढूंढ लिया जिसके पास माल तैयार रहता है हमेशा,
राइट,
तो बेसिक कलर्स में, जैसे 10 कलर्स में रेडी रहता है, या पोलो टी शर्ट्स है उसमें रेडी रहता है, अपना एलिमेंट ऐड करने के लिए, अपनी ब्रांड आइडेंटिटी बनाने के लिए आपने उसमें कुछ अपना एलिमेंट, हाथ का काम या कुछ इस तरीके का काम उसमें ऐड ऑन किया बने हुए गारमेंट में, तो आप उसका एक कैटलॉग बनाओ और उसको D2C पे डालो, मार्केट प्लेसेस पे डालो. एंड चूंकि एक बने हुए गारमेंट को बनने में टाइम लगता है, बट उसके ऊपर हाथ का काम करने में आपको बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा.
पर इसमें हम लोग सिर्फ एक कमोडिटी ब्रांड ही बना पाएंगे? नहीं, मैंने कमोडिटी बिजनेस ही बना पाएंगे. सॉरी,
नहीं, टू बी सी, देखिए, कमोडिटी बिजनेस बना पाएंगे, हाँ, वो भी कर सकते हैं, बट लाइक आई सेड, इफ यू कैन ऐड ऑन समथिंग ऑन द गारमेंट, फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ यू कैन ऐड ऑन अ प्रिंट. आज के दिन पे ये न्यू एज ब्रांड्स खुल रहे हैं टी शर्ट्स के, चूडनो, जे वॉकिंग, ब्लू ऑरेंज. इफ यू विल सी इवेंचुअली व्हाट आर दे आर सेलिंग अ बेसिक टी शर्ट विद देयर प्रिंट, राइट, विद सम काइंड ऑफ एन एसिड वॉश, सम डिफरेंट वॉशेस. दिस व्हाट दे आर डूइंग.
ओके.
तो वो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर तो रेडी है, उसके ऊपर करा के बेचना है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट टर्निंग इट अराउंड एंड दे हैव मेड अ नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट, बट आई एम सेइंग कि उसको इस तरीके से बनाया जा सकता है. और अगर आपने ये बना लिया, तो आप सोचो कि आपके पास पहले ऑर्डर आता है, फिर आप बनाते हो और फिर आपके कस्टमर के पास जाता है। तो आप कोई भी चीज़ ऐसे बना के नहीं रखते हो जिसमें जो आपके पास डेड स्टॉक हो सकता है। हाँ, अब आएगी बात रिटर्न्स की कि अगर माल बिकेगा तो रिटर्न तो आएगा ही। सो इन फैशन इंडस्ट्री आई थिंक you can expect a return of close to about 30%.
Oh, wow.
30 to 40%, which is a norm, right? So try to choose category where you think the returns would be less. So for example, there's a hack for this also. तो आप इस तरीके की इंडस्ट्री, इस तरीके के प्रोडक्ट्स बनाने की कोशिश करो जिसमें elasticity हो. For example, instead of making a trouser which cannot stretch in waist, try to make a trouser with elasticated waist.
Okay.
तो अगर आप थोड़ा सा इलास्टिकेटेड वेस्ट बनाओगे मे बी बाय एडिंग सम एलिमेंट ऑन द वेस्ट, तो क्या होगा कि अगर फॉर एग्जांपल बंदे को जिसमें फिक्स्ड वेस्ट होती है वो नहीं आ रहा है, तो थोड़ा बड़ा या थोड़ा छोटा है, तो इट विल एडजस्ट, सो यू विल हैव लेसर रिटर्न्स.
Okay.
So there are some hacks to actually, I mean, if you do it like this, you can actually reduce the returns. So if the average is 30-40, you will be close to about 20
Great.
1 or 2%. That's also another smart way. But तो ये जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, इस तरीके से आप नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस बना सकते हैं. एंड स्लोली एंड स्टडली जब आपका बिजनेस बड़ा होने लगे, देन यू कैन फोकस ऑन हाउ कैन यू. देखिए आज के दिन भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अपैरल बिजनेस में ट्रेडिशनल तरीके से होती है. वो लाइन में तरीका है, वो ठेकेदार है और वो अपने हिसाब से चीज़ें मैन्युफैक्चर करता है. इफ़ यू कैन यूज़ योर अक्यूमन, यू कैन एक्चुअली क्रिएट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इन अ वे where things can be turned around, like garments that will get sold can be turned around in less than 12 hours. It is not a rocket science.
Okay.
So for that I can also give you a live example. For example, आज के दिन पे आपके गली के बाहर टेलर्स होते हैं,
हाँ. जिसको
आपकी मम्मी रेडीमेड सूट दे के आती होगी कि यार ये सिल दो. तो अगर वो कोई काम नहीं कर रहा है तो वो आपको 4 घंटे में सिल के दे देगा.
हाँ.
तो अगर वो कर सकता है तो वही काम तो आपको अभी भी करना है. So instead of producing it in bulk, maybe that will require a larger workforce. Maybe the price of the garment would be slightly higher.
Okay.
But you will not have dead inventory. And honestly, the only thing that fashion businesses eventually are not able to survive is only because of dead stocks.
Okay.
तो वो एक बहुत बड़ी liability है. इस तरीके से business बनाओगे तो liability free business बनेगा, और चला तो चला, नहीं चला तो घर के पैसे आपके बैंक में रहेंगे.
Very well said. Next, we're going to talk about sourcing, and it seems to me you are a sourcing expert with all the literature I've read about you and the journey I know so far. So about sourcing, मुझे ये बताओ, ये ट्रेंड्स और गैप्स कैसे पता चलते हैं किसी को अपना स्टार्ट करना है?
तो यार देखो, अब ट्रेंड्स और गैप्स आइडेंटिफाई करने के कुछ बड़े सही तरीके हैं. जैसे अगर आज के दिन पे आप देखिए मैं कैसे करता था, उसका भी मैं आपको एग्जांपल दूंगा, क्योंकि मैं जब करता था ये तो इट वाज ऑलमोस्ट अबाउट 10 years बैक व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड, राइट. और आज कैसे करना है वो शायद थोड़ा सा ट्रेंड चेंज हो गया होगा, बट स्टिल आई टेल यू बोथ. तो जब मैं करता था तो मैं क्या करता था, इफ़ आई टॉक अबाउट ऑनलाइन, तो मैं मार्केट प्लेसेस पे जाता था एंड आई यूज्ड टू सॉर्ट द कैटेगरीज. फॉर एग्जांपल इफ आई टॉक अबाउट टी शर्ट्स, तो मैं टी शर्ट्स पे जाके टॉप सेलर्स पे पॉपुलैरिटी पे क्लिक करता था, तो जो टॉप सेलर्स होते थे वो ऊपर आ जाते थे.
अच्छा.
तो मुझे पता लग जाता था क्या बिक रहा है. मैं टॉप 10 टॉप 20 देखता था, एक आइडिया लग जाता था कि यार वाइट कलर की टी शर्ट ज़्यादा बिक रही हैं, रेड कलर की टी शर्ट ज़्यादा बिक रही हैं, क्या ज़्यादा बिक रहा है उसका आइडिया लग जाता है. और उसके हिसाब से फिर हम अपना चीज़ बनाते हैं, अपना प्रोडक्ट बना सकते हैं. दूसरा हैक ये है कि अगर आपको ये आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि कितना माल बिक रहा है, आपका कोई कॉन्टैक्ट नहीं है इन अमेजॉन, फ्लिपकार्ट, मिंत्रा वगैरह में, तो एक तरीका ये है कि आप कैटेगरी खोल के जब देखोगे तो रिव्यूज़ देखो. अगर फॉर एग्जांपल मैं बात करता हूँ ट्राउजर्स की वर्सेस टी शर्ट्स की. ट्राउज़र में अगर आप देखोगे टॉप 5 प्रोडक्ट्स में अगर रिव्यूज़ हैं फॉर एग्जांपल 10,000, 15,000, 16,000 एक टॉप सेलर प्रोडक्ट्स में, वर्सेस अगर आप टी शर्ट में देखोगे तो उसमें लाखों में रिव्यूज़ होंगे. तो आपको ऑटोमेटिकली पता लग जाएगा कि यार ये ज़्यादा बिक रहा है, इसीलिए इसके व्यूज़ ज़्यादा हैं. तो ये एक बहुत अच्छा तरीका है ट्रेंड्स और गैप्स, ट्रेंड्स पता करने का. अब रही बात गैप की, तो गैप में मुझे ऐसा लगता है अगर आपको ये पता करना है कि यार मैं क्या बनाऊँ, अपना नीश कैसे ढूंढूँ, तो उसका एक तरीका ये है कि यू शुड ऑलवेज लुक एट products which are selling at a higher price point. कहने का मतलब ये है कि फॉर एग्जांपल आप ये देखो कि कौन सी कैटेगरी में एवरेज सेलिंग प्राइस ज़्यादा है।
ओके।
सो फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आपको मैं एग्जांपल दूँ, आप मेन कार्गो सर्च करो तो उसमें आपको एवरेज सेलिंग प्राइस पॉइंट वर्सेस अ प्लेन कार्गो ज़्यादा दिखेगा।
अच्छा।
कि अगर प्लेन ट्राउज़र का सेलिंग प्राइस पॉइंट 599 है एवरेज, तो कार्गो का आपको 999 मिलेगा। एंड जब आप दोनों की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में घुसोगे तो आपको पता लगेगा कि एक नॉर्मल ट्राउज़र और एक कार्गो बनाने में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 100 रुपये का फ़र्क है।
ओके।
लेकिन प्राइस पॉइंट में आप देखोगे कि 500 रुपये का फ़र्क आ रहा है एवरेज सेलिंग प्राइस में। सो दिस इज़ हाउ यू आइडेंटिफाई अ गैप। नाउ इफ़ यू आर स्मार्ट इनफ टू एक्चुअली क्रिएट a product in this category and do away with this 500 and maybe create a product with a 250 margin, तो आपने गैप आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया है और आप उसमें एक सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस बना सकते हो। दूसरा तरीका कलर्स को लेकर है।
ओके।
कि क्या है कि कुछ कलर्स की जो लाइट कलर्स होते हैं उनकी हैंडलिंग मुश्किल होती है।
ओके।
सो लॉट ऑफ ब्रांड्स आर नॉट वेरी विलिंग टू डू दैट। फॉर एग्जाम्पल वाइट कलर के गारमेंट्स, लाइट कलर के गारमेंट्स जो होते हैं, क्योंकि इवेंचुअली इट इज़ द लेबर वाज एक्चुअली डूइंग वर्क एट द
फैक्ट्री।
at the back end. So brands usually choose darker colors because कहीं कोई stain ना आ जाए, कुछ ना आ जाए. So that will always be a gap. There will always be a gap in there. So ये पहले भी था, हमारे टाइम पे भी था और आज भी ये गैप है. If you will go and search for a white denim, still you will not be able to find it for the average selling price of that particular category. That I can 100% tell you. You can go and do your own research also this way.
All right. There's a lot of research to do. But further on, more about sourcing now. If I have some inspirations and I want to get my first collection made, can you let me know the design process, how I can go about it, and how to crack lower MOQ manufacturing?
अब देखिए, अगर आपको अपने खुद के प्रोडक्ट्स डिज़ाइन करने हैं वर्सेस मतलब किसी का बना हुआ माल उठा के आपको बेचना है, तो आपको उसके लिए देखिए डिज़ाइन के लिए तो क्या है कि आजकल बहुत सारी वेबसाइट्स हैं ना, फ्रीलांसर्स मिल जाते हैं।
ओके।
जैसे अपवर्क, फीवर, freelancer.com, lot of them.
Okay.
There you will easily find designers, right? So and they also come for a very low cost. मतलब $10, $20 में आपका काम करके दे देंगे आपको.
Okay.
Which is as low as even if I consider ₹100 for $1, 1000, 2000, 3000 रुपये में काम हो जाएगा आपका।
अच्छा।
तो आपको क्या करना है, अपनी इंस्पिरेशंस इन लोगों को भेजिए और अपने डिज़ाइंस बनवा लीजिए। और फिर उन डिज़ाइंस को आप इस तरीके से आप डिज़ाइन क्रैक कर सकते हो। फिर उन डिज़ाइंस को आप मैन्युफैक्चरर ढूंढिए और उससे वो डिज़ाइंस कन्वर्ट करा लीजिए। अब रही बात कि आप लो MOQ में कैसे मैन्युफैक्चर कराएंगे, तो देखिए कोई भी आदमी आपको कोई भी चीज़ नुकसान में कभी बना के नहीं देगा। तो मेरा ये सोचना है कि आपको मैन्युफैक्चरर ढूंढने के लिए और वो आपको आपकी चीज़ लो MOQ में बना के दे, इसके लिए उसको भी आपको अपने विजन के साथ अलाइन करना पड़ेगा।
Okay.
मतलब एक तरीका ये है कि आप कई सारी वेबसाइट्स हैं, जस्ट डायल है, कहीं से भी आप ऑनलाइन आजकल तो बहुत आसान है, आप अपने आसपास 10 मैन्युफैक्चरर्स निकालो, 10 से जाके मिलो, अपने विजन के बारे में उनको बताओ, उनको बताओ कि इस तरीके की चीज़ वो आप करना चाहते हो और अगर आप बढ़ोगे तो आपके साथ वो भी बढ़ेंगे, पर उनको इस तरीके से आपको मतलब दे हैव टू हेल्प यू इन नॉट ओवर चार्जिंग एंड नॉट मेकिंग एन MOQ लिमिटेशन ऑन यू कि भाई कि आपको एक डिज़ाइन के 100 पीसीज बनाने पड़ेंगे, ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं होता है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग। आई हैव रन माई ओन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट एंड आई कैन टेल इट टू यू दैट अ सर्टन प्राइस पॉइंट कैन बी मेट बाय ऑल्सो कीपिंग वेरी लो MOQs, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे को एक प्रिंटेड शर्ट बनानी है, तो अब मैं अगर पहले के टाइम पे जो प्रिंटिंग प्रोसेस होता था वो फ्लेक्स प्रिंटिंग प्रोसेस होता था, उसमें रोटरी प्रिंटिंग प्रोसेस, सॉरी, उस रोटरी प्रिंटिंग प्रोसेस में क्या है, एक प्रोसेस का पूरा मोल्ड बनता था, उसकी एक फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट होती थी 10-12 हज़ार।
Okay.
फिर एक मिनिमम लेंथ ऑफ फैब्रिक प्रिंट होगा, फिर उसके बाद शर्ट बनेगी, तो एक मिनिमम ऑर्डर क्वांटिटी 100, 200, 500 रहती थी उसमें, या 1000 शर्ट रहती थी एक डिज़ाइन में। आज का समय बदल गया, अब आ गया डिजिटल प्रिंटिंग।
Okay.
तो इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग थ्रू दैट प्रोसेस, अब डिजिटल प्रिंटिंग में पेपर की तरह प्रिंट होता है कि आप 1 पीस पेपर प्रिंट करो या 1000 पीस पेपर प्रिंट करो, तो वो प्रिंटेड शर्ट बनानी है, 1 पीस भी प्रिंट हो जाएगा, 1 पीस का कपड़ा शर्ट का प्रिंट हो जाएगा। किसी भी मैन्युफैक्चरर को सैम्पलिंग रेट देकर, अगर यूजुअली आपका एक शर्ट को मैन्युफैक्चर करने का नॉर्मल रेट फॉर एग्जांपल 150 रुपये है, तो वो आपसे 300 रुपये चार्ज कर लेगा, पर आपको वो शर्ट बना के दे देगा। तो हो सकता है शुरुआत में आपको मार्जिन ना मिले,
Yeah.
बट आपको ये पता है कि अगर आप शुरुआत में थोड़े मार्जिन में भी काम करोगे, इवेंचुअली यू कैन एक्चुअली वंस यू हैव क्वांटिटी, आप उसके साथ बात कर सकते हो और उसको ये इस तरीके की डील हो सकती है कि भाई उसका एक कारीगर एक दिन में अगर 5 पीस बनाता है, ठीक है, अगर आप उसको 5 पीस देने लग जाओ एक दिन में, तो फिर वो आपका रेट जो आज आपसे 300 चार्ज कर रहा है वो 150 चार्ज करेगा। तो इतना ही फर्क होता है इस इंडस्ट्री में। कोई आपको बोलता है कि 50 पीस मिनिमम बनवाने पड़ेंगे, तो वो तो खाली बोलने के लिए बोल रहा है, ऐसा ज़रूरी होता नहीं है। उसका काम इतना ही है कि उसके यहाँ जो एक कारीगर बैठा है उसको एक दिन का काम वो पूरा दे सके। इफ़ ही इज़ एबल टू गिव दैट स्किल्ड लेबर a day job, which is say making 5 t-shirts or 4 t-shirts, he can actually give it to you at a bulk costing also.
Okay, great.
Maybe these are the hacks that you can actually use while negotiating with the person that you would go to.
Okay, say I want to select from existing designs from vendors and suppliers today, which is also called white labeling. Which is the best place to source in India and abroad?
तो जो मैंने आपको हैक बताया है नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस का, वो एक्चुअली वाइट लेबलिंग ही है।
Okay.
मतलब अगर फैशन इंडस्ट्री में आप किसी तरीके से वाइट लेबलिंग करके सामान बेच सकते हो एंड यू कैन इंश्योर
Yeah.
कि अगर सामने वाले से जो आप सामान उठा के, क्योंकि टू प्रोक्योर अ प्रोडक्ट एंड इवेंचुअली सेल इट ऑनलाइन देयर इज अ सर्टेन कॉस्ट इन्वॉल्व्ड, यू हैव टू गेट द फोटो शूट डन, मेक इट लाइव, पता चला आपका जब तक प्रोडक्ट बिका उसके बाद आउट ऑफ स्टॉक हो गया। तो वाइट लेबलिंग में ये चैलेंज जरूर आता है।
Okay.
बट अगेन वाइट लेबलिंग इज अ नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल बिजनेस विद दिस चैलेंज। सो टू ओवरडू दिस चैलेंज you should go with basic garments and then उसके ऊपर आप, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, आप प्रिंटिंग करा सकते हो, हाथ का काम करा सकते हो, ये करा सकते हो। तो रही बात इस तरीके के मार्केट्स की जहाँ से आप इस तरीके का काम कर सकते हो। सो फॉर एग्जांपल सो देयर आर each city is actually famous for something. So for example if I talk about hand block, right, you go to जयपुर,
Okay.
वहाँ पे आपको हैंड ब्लॉक प्रिंटेड कपड़े आपको 1-2 मीटर भी मार्केट में मिल जाएंगे। वही चीज़ आप दिल्ली में सोर्स करना चाहोगे तो दुगने तिगने रेट में मिलेगी।
Sure.
और अब जैसे टी शर्ट्स की बात करूँ तो गांधीनगर बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है। लुधियाना इज अ बिग मार्केट, सो मे बी देयर लुधियाना इज लाइक मे बी फॉर मोर क्वांटिटी, बट all this detail I think is also fractionally available online, right? But आपको एक बार तो उस मार्केट में जाके अपना पसीना बहाना पड़ेगा।
अच्छा।
और आपको to get to the right source you will have to roam around, talk to people there, and then eventually you will be able to find your
Okay.
thing there. So like I said, so for example if you want to go to for shirts, right, shirts के लिए Bangalore is very famous for shirts, right? तो वहाँ पे आपको जाके मार्केट में घूमना पड़ेगा, मैन्युफैक्चरर से बात करनी पड़ेगी। बट एक चीज़ और है, फैशन एज अ कैटेगरी इतनी इवॉल्व हो चुकी है कि जैसे पहले के टाइम पे होता था कि लुधियाना इस चीज़ के लिए फेमस है, बैंगलोर इस चीज़ के लिए फेमस है, डेनिम के लिए कोई फलाना स्टेट फेमस है। आजकल सारी चीज़ें आपको दिल्ली एनसीआर में भी मिल जाएंगी।
Okay.
मतलब ज़रूरी नहीं है आपको उस सेक्टर में जाना ही है, दिल्ली में भी मिल जाएंगी, आप मैन्युफैक्चर यहाँ पे भी करा सकते हो। बट रही बात चूँकि आपको बिजनेस की शुरुआत करनी है और आपके पास क्वांटिटी नहीं है, आपको 2, 4, 10 पीस 15 पीस ही सोर्स करने हैं, तो उसके लिए आप ज़रूर जा सकते हो। वहाँ पे आपको एक ऐसे मार्केट्स मिल जाएंगे जहाँ पे रेडीमेड सामान मिल जाएगा आपको,
Right.
बना हुआ, जो कि शायद आपको मे बी स्पेसिफिकली उसी जगह मिले। बट एक बार आप यहाँ के भी, गांधीनगर बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है
Okay.
गारमेंट्स का, मतलब इंडिया का सबसे बड़ा मार्केट है गारमेंट्स का, तो उसमें ही जाके आप करोगे, वहीं पे आपको मैक्सिमम कैटेगरीज गारमेंट्स की मिल जाएंगी।
Makes sense. Okay, आजकल मैं देख रही हूँ जो भी फैशन ब्रांड्स हैं, ज्वेलरी ब्रांड्स, फैशन ब्रांड्स, दे आर वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग ऑन ब्रांड स्टोरी. What are the key elements I should look into while creating a brand story?
तो देखो, ब्रांड स्टोरी, जहाँ तक ब्रांड स्टोरी की बात है, हम लोग, इफ़ आई जस्ट सर्कल बैक टू यू नो व्हाट वी डिस्कस्ड, सो देयर आर एक्चुअली 2 ways टू क्रिएट अ ब्रांड, 2 ways टू एक्चुअली क्रिएट अ फैशन बिजनेस, आई वुड से. One is to create a commodity business, and the other is to actually create a brand.
Okay.
By which I'll explain both of them. So, for example, if I talk about a commodity business होता है जो कि बहुत प्राइस सेंसिटिव बिजनेस होता है. मतलब वो इस तरीके का बिजनेस होता है कि आप बेच ही इसलिए पा रहे हो क्योंकि आप सस्ते हो.
Okay.
ठीक है, तो आप हमेशा कमोडिटी बिजनेस बन के रह जाओगे.
हाँ.
जब तक आप सस्ते हो, जब तक आपसे कोई सस्ता नहीं है, आप बिक रहे हो. जिस दिन आपसे सस्ता कोई आ जाएगा उस दिन आप बाहर हो जाओगे। और दूसरा होता है ब्रांड बनाना। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि सबसे स्मार्टेस्ट वे इस चीज़ को करने का ये है कि आप पहले कमोडिटी बिजनेस बनाओ जिससे आप कैश फ्लो जनरेट करो एंड फिर उसके बाद उसको ब्रांड में धीरे धीरे कन्वर्ट करो। बिकॉज टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, टू क्रिएट अ ब्रांड स्टोरी एंड टू क्रिएट अ ब्रांड टुडे, it requires a lot of money in terms of the exercises that you'll have to, the story that you'll have to create around the brand. तो उसके लिए मतलब आप खुद भी कर सकते हो, ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं है, but I'm not sure if everybody would have that kind of an acumen. A lot of people have. For example, what you've done with Handron also today, I'm sure takes a lot of your time, takes a lot of energy to actually create those videos, talk about it. मतलब आप बिजनेस करोगे कि आप ये करोगे, मतलब दिस इज अ कम्प्लीटली डिफरेंट बिजनेस। तो रही बात ब्रांड स्टोरी कैसे बनाते हैं, सो आई थिंक देयर आर फ्यू थिंग्स दैट आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट व्हाइल यू आर क्रिएटिंग अ ब्रांड स्टोरी। यू हैव टू ऑलवेज रिमेंबर दैट यू हैव टू फाइंड योर ओन ब्लू ओशन। बाय विच व्हाट आई मीन इज कि मतलब आपको आपकी आइडेंटिटी पता होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल मतलब what is the brand about? So for example, अगर आज मैं आपको बोलूँ denim, so if I tell you to tell me one brand that comes to your mind immediately when you think about denim, what would that brand be?
Levi's.
You would say Levi's. Anybody would say Levi's. So that's an identity that they have created with that particular product. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि लिवाई खाली डेनिम ही बेचता है, लिवाई स्लीपर्स भी बेचता है, लिवाई टी शर्ट्स भी बेचता है, लिवाई शर्ट्स भी बेचता है, हर कुछ सब कुछ बेचता है। लेकिन अगर मैं शर्ट बोलूँगा तो आपके दिमाग में लिवाइस नहीं आएगा।
करेक्ट।
सो ये एक ब्रांड आइडेंटिटी उन्होंने क्रिएट करी विद दैट पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट। मतलब दे हैव एक, आज भी अगर आप लिवाइस के ऐड देखोगी तो इट इज़ अबाउट डेनिम ओनली। नो मैटर द डेनिम सेल्स वुड बी से अबाउट 50-60 or I'm not sure, but I'm just guessing, would not be very significant, but not like 95%, but their other categories would be contributing much larger now, but still there because their brand identity is like that. तो उन्होंने ऐसा आज भी करते हैं। Also there is another very important thing that you have to keep in mind is कि मतलब आज के दिन पे अगर आपको एक ब्रांड बनाना है तो उसके लिए you have to connect yourself with the brand. आजकल जो एक नया रेवोल्यूशन इंडिया में आ रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ द इंटरनेट एंड सच पॉडकास्ट्स एंड इंस्टाग्राम एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट इज दैट पीपल एटलीस्ट इन इंडिया आर वेरी फोकस्ड ऑन लुकिंग इनटू द लाइव्स ऑफ इंडियन होम ग्रोन ब्रांड्स। I have seen the Gen Z today, and in fact, I myself, if I given a choice to buy between a relevant Indian brand versus an outside brand, I would prefer buying an Indian brand.
Okay.
In fact, in a few podcasts that I watch, I've seen Nikhil Kamath also wearing and promoting 1111 and similarly such Indian brands. So वो आपको Indianness लानी important है. And you have to connect the brand with yourself. For example, if you look at jaywalking today, so jaywalking is about Jay, right? So it's about his way of thinking. It's about his style, right?
Yeah.
So if you can inculcate yourself with the brand and connect yourself, I think you will create a far more better story,
right?
Than maybe otherwise.
A bit manicured one, maybe. Okay, ads and influencer marketing is very expensive, especially for someone who's just starting up or a small scale business. What are some of the organic ways you suggest to gain visibility?
यार मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है ना आप सारे ट्रिक्स निकलवा लोगे, ठीक है?
इसलिए तो बुलाया है।
और खैर आई थिंक anybody who benefits out of this conversation, I'll be the happiest person. And I would really want people to maybe use the experience of the knowledge I may have and benefit out of it. So yeah, देखो I am not one of those people who would advise doing paid marketing or influencer marketing. I think one hack to do this is I'll circle back to what I just told you 2 minutes back, which was that connect yourself with the brand. You become the brand ambassador, you become the influencer, and you talk about yourself. Wear your own brand, promote your own brand, and do it yourself. अब आज का वो टाइम आ गया है कि मतलब वो कलोनियल हैंगओवर जो इंडियंस पे था वो बहुत हद तक फेड ऑफ हो रहा है.
Okay.
So people want to know, people want to wear, people want to experience what Indians are doing
Yeah.
in India itself. तो एक तो वो तरीका है, उसमें इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग वगैरह आपको ज़्यादा नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. हाँ, एक और बड़ा अच्छा तरीका है कि मेक श्योर दैट यू नो यू आर transposing your journey to your community.
Okay.
I mean, a way to do that is I recently saw one of this. I don't exactly remember, but there was this restaurant that opened up, and there was a very smart thing that these guys did. They actually vlogged their whole journey.
Okay.
They used to create a video every day. कि आज टाइल लेके आ रहे हैं,
अरे वाह.
आज पेंटर बुलाया है. तो उन्होंने पूरा अपना रेस्टोरेंट का जर्नी डाला. तब तक उस जर्नी में उन्होंने बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग कम्युनिटी ऑलरेडी बिल्ड कर ली थी. एंड द डे दे लॉन्च्ड इट बिकेम अ हिट. लाइक बिकेम द टॉक ऑफ द टाउन. And still they are very popular, and the business has started flourishing right from the first day. They built a huge community on Instagram. So अब local community बन गई है, तो उनको कुछ भी promote करना है बहुत easily कर पा रहे हैं. तो ये एक बड़ा smart तरीका है करने का कि be as raw as you can.
Okay.
Don't try to have a mask. Because आज के दिन पे हर आदमी को पता है कि ये जो सामने influencer मुझे बता रहा है कि ये बहुत अच्छी ड्रेस है या ये बहुत अच्छा फेस पैक है, वो उसे भी पता है और हमें भी पता है, सबको ये बात पता चल गया है.
Right.
तो आई मीन सो मेक इट एज रॉ एज पॉसिबल. आई थिंक रॉ थिंग्स आर स्केलिंग लाइक एनीथिंग इन इंडिया टुडे.
And I think a driven community has a lot of impact.
Yes.
People are all about creating communities within their own sectors and even kind of expanding. Not just suppose if I have a fashion brand, I may not just expand my community till the fashion, but beyond that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes a lot of difference. अब हम पैकेजिंग की बात करते हैं. आजकल अनबॉक्सिंग एक्सपीरियंस तो काफ़ी इम्पोर्टेंट हो गया है एंड पीपल आर वेरी क्रिएटिव विद दैट. सो फॉर अ स्मॉल स्केल fashion business or someone who's starting new, what are the cost-effective yet luxurious packaging ideas that you can give me?
So, मेरा पैकेजिंग को लेकर ये ओपिनियन है कि आजकल मतलब if I look at successful brands,
Yeah.
like if I talk about a phone like iPhone, if I talk about any brands who've been able to make it in trillions of dollars, right? All those brands, if you will see, have an exceptional unboxing experience.
Okay.
An exceptional packaging experience. I mean, I still remember that I might have my first iPhone's box also today with me in my cupboard. I would have kept it. Because it was so nice, it was so premium, right? Similarly, if you go to any luxurious brand today, for example, all the likes of these ultra luxury brands like Louis Vuitton. So you will see they'll have a butter paper, they'll have, a lot of things that they would involve to actually create a kind of an experience, that brings a smile on your face. So I think fashion as a category, अगर मैं देखूँ तो आज भी वो एक पॉली बैग में और एक नॉर्मल सी चीज़ में ही लोगों को डिलीवर होता है. बट जो लोग आज इस पे काम कर रहे हैं एंड दे आर ट्राइंग टू do something better in this category, will definitely be able to outshine the other ones in the future. That's my personal take. And how to really go about this is, I think, invest in more of earthy materials.
Okay.
I think earthy materials से मुझे ऐसा लगता है बहुत ही nature से related feeling आती है. It gives you a very positive vibe. So instead of using a plastic poly bag, go for a craft paper bag.
Okay.
With nice branding, right? Go for some, instead of using tapes, go for some jute ribbons.
Okay.
Go for some paper adhesive stickers.
Yes.
Use those. Use butter papers. So, I mean, these are alternatives that you can always.
Yeah.
I know it takes away your margin, definitely. But understand in the long run, if you're not really investing in your brand per se by doing marketing and all of that, this is the other way to actually invest somewhere in your brand, because it somewhere definitely stays with the customer, at the back of his mind. It definitely stays, and it long
It's a
lasts.
recall value.
Yeah, there's a recall value, and if he likes your garment, he'll definitely come back and order more from you.
सबसे अच्छी बात तो ये है कि like even when I wanted to design a particular packaging for hand-on, I could find tools easier, and if I compare 5 years back, थोड़ा सा difficult था. And आज मैं देखती हूँ तो छोटे छोटे elements like stickers हैं या ribbons हैं or paper, whatever I want to use for packaging is easily available, and even on a lower MOQ.
Yeah, that's also because of the internet penetration in India.
Yes.
छोटे-छोटे manufacturers एक दो machine लगा के अपने आप को promote कर रहे हैं. So you can find them on Instagram very easily.
Yes.
Because I think our favorite time pass today is to actually watch reels.
Yeah.
बहुत easily available है, इसलिए I think बहुत आसान है. But हाँ, जितना हो सके avoid use earthy materials.
Okay.
Those definitely
More sustainable.
और बहुत ज़्यादा कॉस्ट भी नहीं होती, वो सिमिलर कॉस्ट में. आजकल तो ये टाइम आ गया है कि पॉलीथीन वर्सेस पेपर comes for a similar cost.
Tell me 3 mistakes that I should not make when starting up.
Okay. So, to be honest, if I have to put it in 3 advices that I would like to give, so I think one is, you have to be very cautious with your money. Okay? Money, you will not, if you're not spending frugally,
Yeah.
right? You will not know when your bank account will become zero, and you will not have more fuel to fuel your business. Second, I think one advice that I would want to give to anybody who's starting up is to have a lot of patience. So see, you have to understand that there will be cycles.
Yeah.
You will have days when you will sell a lot of pieces and days when you will not sell anything. So be consistent. No matter what happens in this world, right? You will stay with this. If you can have this attitude, things will turn in your favor one day. And I mean, I can actually tell, like a short story to you about my own brand.
Yeah.
Right? That if you are consistent, you will be able to make it. Third advice that I would like to give would be on the fact that you have to use technology as much as you can to cut your costs. I think one thing that I always did with my business was to eliminate a lot of skilled labor wherever I can.
Okay.
Right? And cut down my cost as much as I can. I mean, my costs were, if I talk about my fixed cost in terms of the salaries that I used to give away and stuff, I always kept it so minuscule that even if my business does not stay for say 10, 12 months, maybe, something happens and the country shuts down for 12 months, I would still be able to sustain decently and give away those salaries. So to do that, I think one of the things that I always used was to include technology in everything.
Okay.
So I used to make Windows applications to streamline processes, right, in my warehouse or in my factory. So just to give you an example, for example, if a material has to be sorted in different categories. So for example, if there's a sack which has t-shirts, shirts in different sizes. So let's say there are 20 SKUs in that and you have to sort those SKUs. One way to do that is to actually train the employee and tell him that, okay, this is, if you will see a certain letter written on the product, then it is a shirt, because the garment is eventually, it is actually packed in a poly bag. He cannot open every garment and see. So you'll have to tell him, he have to be learned enough to read English to be able to identify what that garment is. So to do that, I would have had to, have maybe not somebody with a lower weight, but a slightly, trained guy.
Yeah.
So to eliminate that, what I did was I actually installed a Windows application where I knew that anybody in, who has a slightest sense also can identify colors. So for example, if I had to distribute it into, say, 5 different categories. So I made a software where, if he would scan one thing, there would be a certain light, that would light up, or maybe a number that would come up on the screen. And there were 5 or 10 baskets that were kept in front of him. He would just scan, let's say if one comes up or say blue color comes up, he'll have to put it in the blue basket or he'll have to put in the 1 number crate. And if 2 comes up, he has to put it in the 2 number crate. So this is how I reduced my cost. I mean, somewhere I would have had to say, employ somebody who I would have given say 20,000 rupees.
Yeah.
I could do that in maybe 12,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees at that time when I was doing it. So that's a very important advice that I would want to give to everyone.
So tell me, your brand Hubberholme got acquired, and what was the journey like?
Okay, so to be very honest, I mean, it was a very strange time. I remember, so my first talk that I, was initiated for this process and which eventually culminated into a successful deal actually happened during the second wave of COVID.
Okay.
In 2021, I remember I was staying in Jaipur in a hotel and my brother was actually admitted in the hospital and he was terminally ill with the second wave and he had a severe lung damage. And I was staying in the hotel right next to him and the whole country was under a lockdown. And I remember I used to go out 3 times in the complete day. The first was when I used to go and drop breakfast to him, second was lunch, and third was dinner. That was the only 3 times I was get out of the room and the hotel, and used to do that. So it was during that time is when my factories were still working because I was manufacturing masks at that time.
Okay.
So those were running, but I was in Jaipur with him, and the first conversation got initiated. And at that time, because the time was so strange, honestly, nobody knew whether the world would exist or not.
Yeah.
Whether, something bad would happen. And my brother was a very important part for me, for my life, was also going through a very difficult situation. So I was actually in 2 minds. The business was flourishing like anything, but I was not able to decide what to do. So during the conversation, I had an option to actually give a part or give away the whole thing. And I chose the latter. I think it were the circumstances that were such that I didn't know how would I really support my family if, God forbid, something bad would have happened. So I think, still when I think about that time, it's not a very easy time. But so I think God was very kind. And I would like to thank Anand also for everything that he's done and how the whole thing went. I think it was just a very smooth process. I think he and his team were fantastic with everything and very quick. And I think it was by May end, I think, that the due diligence process and everything got done. And we were through with the deal. And
this was Mensa
Brands, yes.
Mensa Brands, right. आज अगर एक बच्चे को अपना ब्रांड स्टार्ट करता है, all these young enthusiastic kids, they feel कि हम भी ब्रांड बनाते हैं, acquire हो जाए हमारा ब्रांड. How do they go through that journey?
Yeah, to be very honest, when I used to run my brand, right? And I used to hear stories of somebody getting acquired for some X $1 million. It was always very fascinating. And to be very honest, I always used to also think of that, one fine day I would also be able to do this. So I remember I have a mentor. His name is Mr. Prasoon Sureka. All my life I've looked forward to him, his acumen, and he was actually my MBA teacher. I used to take MBA classes from him.
Okay.
So I remember having one conversation one day and I was just asking him, he's an IIM guy, कि सर ये acquisition वगैरह होता कैसे है, मतलब क्या तरीका होता है कि investors मिल जाए वो. So, he gave me a very good answer. He said that, have you ever seen a Zara ad? He asked me. At that time also, there were no iPhone ads. So he asked me, have you ever seen an iPhone ad? At that time, Steve Jobs was in Apple, and Apple was launched in India and they never threw any ad. So he asked me whether I've seen an ad, and I was surprised and I didn't. He said that concentrate on your product. If you can make a product that can talk about your brand, that can talk about the brand itself, people will come to you. उन्होंने बोला कि अगर तुम किसी के पास जाओगे मांगने तो तुमको अपनी वैल्यू कभी नहीं मिलेगी. It is exactly how it happens in the property. For example, today if you own a property, right? And if you go and try to find a buyer, will you be able to sell it at your own price? Never. You will never be able to sell it at your own price. But if you concentrate on put all your energies in creating a product, that does not need marketing. If you are able to achieve that, investors, money, everything will flow like a river to you.
Yeah.
And you can trust me because I've done things that way.
Okay. I'll take you through a little into personal side of life. You lost your father at a very early stage. How was it balancing this role of a son who has to take care of a mother and also pay the liabilities and start something new to be able to, sustain a family?
So, I mean, that's a very dark side, to be very honest. And I've never discussed that, I mean, at least, like this with anyone. But, I think, I mean, it was a time when I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what was coming in front of me. I was just taking one thing at a time, and I was not thinking anything else. I think I had a big brother, and I think, with him, he was always a big support for me. And there was never a situation where I used to have those thoughts that, if not what I am doing, then what? I never had those thoughts. I always was very secured. I always knew that he's there. If I had nothing, I would maybe work for his company or maybe
But you found your space, and today you're sitting here inspiring a lot of these young kids, including your son who's going to watch this someday. And it's commendable that I've seen a story and how consistently you've been doing these businesses, even while you see failures coming.
Yeah, so I mean, the thought was always that it was always there. So I think, that support, I think, kept me going. And in my life, I've never had a plan B.
Okay.
For me, it was always, if this or nothing. So I think, that attitude also
really shapes up as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, helps you. Because, one thing that I always tell people is that having a plan B, right?
Yeah.
Would always keep you in this mind, in this frame of mind that, if you're not able to do A, you always have B. But if you don't have a plan B, then you don't think about whether you'll be able to do A or not. You always think about ways to achieve A. So I think that one attitude really helped me to, sail through that situation and, come to a city where I knew nobody.
Yeah.
And to start my own business and to create, some kind of a little
Impact.
mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, that's I mean, that's the best part about my life.
So I made you tear up, and let's talk something more interesting, okay? Hubberholme तो acquire हो गया. कुछ 2-3 points बताओ Hubberholme के interesting journey के.
So I can actually tell you about, these. So like every journey has its ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
So I can actually tell you this very interesting thing that happened with me, which is that, I mean, I've seen days when, when I have sold more than 1 lakh units in a month.
Okay.
And I've seen days when, I would not have sold, if I talk about my sales and return, then it would not have been more than say 20,000 pieces also in a month.
Okay.
So I've seen those times. But, one learning that I actually got from this, my ups and downs was that I always made sure that if I've created one mistake, right, I would never repeat that.
Okay.
I mean, one thing that I think has also helped me reach where I eventually could reach was a point that I never committed a mistake twice. I don't even remember that in my business if I would have I would have committed a mistake twice.
Okay.
There could be one or two instances, but I have always evolved. Matlab, if there is something that has gone wrong in my factory or maybe in my warehouse, I made sure that that same mistake is not repeated again. So I always used to create a process around it.
Okay.
Using technology so that mistake is not repeated. And talking about my downs, I think, there are actually a lot of instances when, I have come to a situation where I would have been in two minds whether I should be running this or whether I should not be running this. Like one of those moments was obviously the first COVID wave.
Yeah.
I remember before the COVID, I'll tell you this story. So I used to do my banking from Yes Bank.
Okay.
And at that time, Yes Bank went into insolvency.
Acha.
I mean, there was some restriction that was put. I'm forgetting the name. What is it called? But it was, I think, in the starting of March when there was this issue with Yes Bank of DHFL and some loans, and the bank went into all the bank accounts were seized. You could not withdraw any money. I and my brother both had our banking in Yes Bank.
Oh.
And I remember we both were sitting that day watching the news in the house, and all our money was in these banks.
Wow.
In Yes Bank. And we did not even have money that we could have withdrawn to buy groceries. I remember I had to call my uncle, my mama ji, to actually ask him to send some money to me so that I can pay my bills. So I had come to that situation. But that moratorium, yes, it went into moratorium. So it eventually, I think, came out of it. And then the day we, came out of it, the next day I transferred all my funds, everything to HDFC Bank. So this was a very strange thing that happened during my journey. Other than that, I think when you are into this journey of entrepreneurship, I think every day, will come with its own challenges.
Okay.
I think one thing that, you should always remember is that as rosy and as, as fantastic as it looks from outside, it is not.
It's not glamorous.
It is not glamorous, yes, sir, for the lack of a better word. But yes, it is one of those industries one of those things that you can do which will fulfill all your dreams in life. But yes, it is a monotonous life. You have to be consistent. You have to believe in your product. And you will have to have an attitude of never letting it go. If you really want it to come back to you with, your dreams to come true. It can actually make that happen for you.
You have a 3-year-old son. And
we have a 3-year-old son.
yeah, so you have a 3-year-old son, and as an entrepreneur yourself, one piece of advice you would want to give him if he starts when he's in his 20s?
Okay, so honestly speaking, like I said, like I talked about 3, learnings that I told you.
Yeah.
I think those would be primarily the 3 things that I would like to tell him. And if I were to just tell one and pinpoint on the most important one, then I would say that
something that made you who you are today.
I think that's consistency. I think I never have a let go attitude.
Yeah.
I will choose, I shouldn't say this, but I would choose death over a failure. I would not choose failure. I would keep doing till my last breath, but I would not leave it. I mean, I think that's only the attitude. Like I always say that given a task, right? I never think whether I can do that task or not. I always think about ways to do that task. So there's a change in mindset, right? So if you can build that kind of a mindset, I think it is very simple. If you actually look at it from a slightly different point of view about success, right? So it is as simple as if you can just turn down all the stones, right? Or turn down all the ways that will lead you to becoming unsuccessful. Then the only way left in front of you is what? Is the way that will take you to success. So if you look at it from this point of view, it is very simple. So just make sure you're not doing anything that your heart says will make you become unsuccessful. So just don't do that. And
I'll ask you last question. After listening to your journey, I've understood one thing, that you struggled a lot and your mindset is more about not letting yourself down or not letting yourself fail. But the generation, which is the new generation, has a lot of free tools now. They are not really fighting for bread and butter. How's it going to change for them?
see, I think I think the new generation who don't have to think about bread and butter anymore, like how our generation was, or maybe generations before.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot of people taking up art. We see a lot of kids taking up their own passion. Maybe we'll see a lot more sportsmen coming from India.
Okay.
Maybe we'll see a lot more, musicians, artists, and lot more things that we didn't have the freedom to do. वो डॉक्टर इंजीनियर वाली स्टोरी बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं दिखेगी आपको. People would choose engineering for passion. If we'd see more of IPs getting created in India.
Okay.
I mean, what you see in US today, where, the business models are created, right? The IPs are created, the new technologies are created. I think we would see that very soon in India with, families families being able to make their ends meet, having a certain cash flows, and their coming up generation don't have to think much about it.
And Mr. Sureka, what are your next plans?
So next plans, I think it's been 3.5 years that I think my brand got acquired and I got out of Hubberholme, and I've been pursuing stock market trading. I think I'm trying to become a derivatives trader. So stock market has always been my passion. I think my first DP, the display picture that you call, that I put on Facebook, I remember, was actually sitting in front of these 4 screens and looking at the charts.
Wow, okay.
So this was actually when I was in college. I remember I had actually post-college, I was working for a company. It was called AP Corona, and they used to trade in European equities. So I was working there as a derivatives trader. But I had just joined.
Yeah.
So it was during the same time when my father was actually diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
So I worked there for about a month or 2, I think, and I had to go back home. So I was doing that. So this place fascinates me to the core. I think I believe somehow, there's something that resonates with you, and I think this is something that resonates with me. I'm still a loss-making trader, to be honest.
Okay.
But I'm trying to find my journey. I'm trying to find my own way. It is just like playing cricket, right? So there are so many players who play cricket, but how many eventually reach to the Indian team? So it is just like that. Everybody knows how to make a cover drive. You can read it in the textbook also. But to do it like Sachin, it requires a lot of practice. It requires a lot of, it's a different skill game. It looks very easy. You have to just click buy and sell, but it's not like that.
Great.
So that's what I'm doing right now in terms of work. And then I have a beautiful 3-year-old son who I like to spend time with as much as I can.
Yeah.
So I work from 9 till 3:30, and then I run back home. So I'm home by 4:30, and then I'm with him all through the night.
Great.
So that's all about.
It's nice to see this new generation of fathers being very handsy with the kids. And like literally, my father's generation, they ask and they say कि पता नहीं ये क्यों कर रहा है, ये प्रैम क्यों उठा रहा है, ये डायपर भी बदल लेता है. So I like that the new generation of fathers have quite evolved themselves and quite involved in grooming and parenting their kids.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you on the couch and sharing your life insights, your business insights with us today. And hopefully it's going to really help a lot of youngsters out there to aspire more, to learn more, to dream more.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.